from the Inspector General to ABC News. Perhaps not the whole report, but information from the report, to be more accurate. And it's very interesting, at least up to now. Now, there are some concerns. The President is right and others are right, that this report not be dumbed down. Because people mentioned prominently in the report have an opportunity to reply, as do the various institutions, like the FBI. And what I would suggest the Inspector General do is attach all those replies as an addendum and issue his report as written. But what do I know? Anyway, some of the initial information is quite interesting. Justice Department's internal watchdog, says ABC News, has concluded that James Comey defied authority at times during his tenure as FBI director, according to sources familiar with the draft report on the matter. Now, this is the FBI director who defied authority at times. One source told ABC News that the draft report explicitly used the word insubordinate to describe Comey's behavior. It is interesting. We haven't seen Comey lately, have we? His book took off like a rocket and then hit the ocean. Another source agreed with that characterization but could not confirm the use of the term insubordinate. In the draft report, Inspector General Michael Horowitz also rebuked former Attorney General Loretta Lynch for her handling of the federal investigation into Hillary Clinton's personal email server, the sources said. Now, by the way, just a heads up, a few days ago, the Washington Post did a hit job on this guy, Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, despite the fact he was originally appointed by Barack Obama. So they're trying to take him down a couple of notches because they're upset. Because the guy's making, findings that they don't like. And that's the media today. Media today will attack you. On Tuesday morning, President Trump complained of numerous delays, and they put quote unquote in the release of Horowitz's final report, which is expected to run several hundred pages long and be released in the coming days. Well, there have been numerous delays. The sources who spoke to ABC News were willing or able to address only a portion of the draft report's complete findings. What is taking so long with the Inspector General's report on crooked Hillary and slippery James Comey? Trump said in a tweet. Hope report is not being changed and made weaker. He's right. Almost from the start, the long-awaited report was expected to chastise Comey for his handling of the Clinton-related probe. So here is where the media step in to say to you, what's the big deal? We already knew this was coming. What's the big deal? We already knew that Comey defied authority from time to time. What's the big deal? We already know Comey was a leaker. What's the big deal? We already know that Comey covered up for Hillary Clinton months before he actually interviewed her, anybody on his staff. What's the big deal? We already knew about the fact that they hadn't had the laptops. What's the big deal? We knew they hadn't seen all the emails. What's the big deal? We already knew all this. What's the big deal? There was an informant in the Trump campaign. I'll get to the genius, the Speaker of the House, in a minute. What's the big deal with anything, ladies and gentlemen? What's the big deal? So it goes on. But in apparently describing Comey's defiance of authority, the draft report was criticizing a man who prided himself on his leadership style at the FBI and has since dedicated his post-government life to promoting a new generation of effective leaders. Is this a joke? He's dedicated his post-FBI life to promoting a new generation of effective leaders? Do they mean leakers? Was that a spelling typo there, Mr. Producer? Leaders, L-E-A-D-E-R-S. Did they mean leakers, L-E-A-K-E-R-S? I think they did. I think ABC should take a knee on that one. The draft of Horowitz's wide-ranging report specifically called out Comey for ignoring objections from the Justice Department when he disclosed in a letter to Congress just days before the 2016 presidential election that FBI agents had reopened the Clinton probe. According to sources, Clinton has said that the letter doomed her campaign. Now, this creates what we call a conundrum for the left. I mean, they'll find a way around it because hypocrites they are. But it creates a conundrum. Now, what is this conundrum? Well, if the report is, as this leak suggests, condemning Comey, ignoring the Department of Justice in the disclosure of this letter to Congress right before the election, if that's the case, then how can they promote Comey, embrace Comey, because Comey has attacked Trump relentlessly, but then on the other hand, condemn Comey and trash Comey for his defiance of authority when it comes to Hillary Clinton? Before Comey sent the letter to Congress, at least one senior Justice Department official told the FBI that publicizing the bombshell move so close to an election would violate long-standing department policy, and it would ignore federal guidelines prohibiting the disclosure of information related to an ongoing investigation. I'm sure that was in the mind of these FBI and DOJ officials when they were leaking like hell on Donald Trump right up to the election. And in an interview in April, ABC News chief anchor George Stephanopoulos, a.k.a. Clintonoid with hemorrhoids, asked Comey, if Attorney General Lynch had ordered you not to send the letter, would you have sent it? No, Comey responded. I believe in the chain of command. So, see, Comey is a fraud. He's a liar. He's a hypocrite. But in backing Trump's ultimate decision to fire Comey last year, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein slammed Comey's letter to Congress and said it was wrong for Comey to usurp the Attorney General's authority when he announced in July 2016 that the FBI would not be filing charges against Clinton or her aides. Now, this is fascinating. That Rosenstein would say that it was wrong for Comey to usurp the Attorney General's authority when Rosenstein usurped the Attorney General's authority in the incredibly broad mandate that he provided to Mr. Mueller when he appointed him special counsel, thereby violating the Appointments Clause. It's not the function of the FBI director to make such an announcement, Rosenstein said in a letter to Trump, recommending Comey be fired. At most, the director should have said the FBI had completed its investigation and presented its findings to federal prosecutors. Which again raises the question, why is Rosenstein still involved and he didn't recuse himself? He recommended that Comey be fired, you recall. And by the way, he recommended that Comey be fired, and the Democrats have been calling for Comey's head right up to the nanosecond that Donald Trump actually fired the guy. Then all of a sudden, they turned on Trump, of course. Now, Horowitz's draft report cited Comey for failing to consult with Loretta Lynch and other senior Justice Department officials before making his announcement on national TV. While saying there was no clear evidence that Clinton intended to violate the law, Comey insisted the former Secretary of State was extremely careless in her handling of very sensitive, highly classified information. Lynch had taken the unusual step of publicly declaring she would accept the FBI's recommendation in the case after an impromptu meeting with the former president, Bill Clinton, sparked questions about her impartiality. Well, of course. She accepted Comey's findings because Comey was in the tank. Just like Strzok and Page were in the tank. Just like McCabe were in the tank. And people, well, then why did he release the letter right before the election? Why did he, release the information about the emails right before the election and so forth? Because he needed to clear the deck. Remember what I've said over and over again. They thought she would win under all circumstances. So he needed to clear the deck. Any possible charges whatsoever, any emails whatsoever, he needed to get out of the way. So he was doing some house cleaning. And Loretta Lynch, of course, she wanted to stay on as Attorney General. Of course she took his recommendation. Look, he didn't consult with me. Look, he defied authority, but I agree with him. Rubber stamp. Now, Comey has defended his decisions as FBI director, insisting he was trying to protect the FBI from even further criticism and didn't see that I had a choice, he said. Now let's step back a second. Donald Trump is being trashed for firing Comey. The morons on the late-night shows, the morons on CNN, the morons on MSNBC, the morons all throughout the media were attacking Trump. The Mueller investigation is looking into whether or not this obstructed justice and so forth. And not only did Rosenstein recommend his removal, that is, Comey, and not only was that endorsed by the Attorney General Sessions, but here's the point everybody's missing today. And I haven't heard them, but I just know they're missing it. Why else is this important? Why else is this important? Because if you have an FBI director who at times defies authority, then he should be fired. In other words, there was a reason, many reasons, to fire Comey. In addition to the president's constitutional prerogative to fire an inferior employee, which is not in dispute, except if you're a liberal and a reporter and an investigator, that's the way the Constitution works. But the point is, Trump had many reasons to fire Comey. And this underscores the fact that Mr. Comey was a very, very bad employee, that he was insubordinate at times. Now, through all of his book interviews and reviews, except for Brett Baer for the most part, he got friendly questions. He was trashing the president. He goes on social media, takes his cheap shots, says the president will be held to account in so many words. And the media could care less at the time what Comey did. They never questioned whether or not he defied authority or was insubordinate to the things that he did, publicly, that we know that he did. Because for them, anyone, anything, any issue that can be used to trash the president or bring him down is fine by the media. We'll be right back. Paul Ryan came to the defense of Trey Gowdy today. That's what the world wants you to believe, but I'm going to give you the backstory on this. Trey Gowdy out there has been defending the FBI's use in a counterintelligence investigation of a spy in Trump world. And Paul Ryan came to his defense today. Is that actually the facts? That's not, but let's listen to Paul Ryan, then I'll explain it. Cut one, go.
I think Chairman Gowdy's initial assessment is accurate. But we have some more digging to do. We're waiting for some more document requests. We have some more documents to review. We still have someone answer questions. It would have been helpful if we got this information earlier. As Chairman Nudis said just the other day, if we got all the information we were looking for, we could wrap this up faster. But I have seen no evidence to the contrary of the initial assessment that Chairman Gowdy has made. But I want to make sure that we run every lead down and make sure we get final answers to these questions. I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to keep commenting on more classified stuff. Yeah,
let me tell you what actually happened here, ladies and gentlemen. The FBI Director, Wray, and individuals at the Department of Justice have been talking to the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, and pressing him to back off, to tell his troops to back off of this issue of a spy in the Trump campaign. A lot of the mainstream Republican media, the rhinos who are on TV and elsewhere, have been voicing this position. Certain individuals have been voicing this position who normally wouldn't, and they've been praised on MSNBC and CNN, among other places. That's not what happened. Paul Ryan told Trey Gowdy to make the case that Wray, the FBI director, had been making to them, to tamp it down. Gowdy, despite all the reputation out there about what a great conservative he is, he's not a great conservative. Gowdy was a hand puppet for Boehner, and he's a hand puppet for Ryan. He's never challenged them. He's never going to challenge them. He does their dirty work. He didn't achieve anything much on the Benghazi committee, and they put him as chairman of the Benghazi committee. And he hasn't done damn near anything when it comes to uncovering what's taken place in this massive scandal. So he defends the FBI, keeps using the word informant in the context of a criminal investigation, when it is a counterterrorism investigation, and we have spies in counterterrorism investigations. This is not normal. And in fact, the Trump campaign in Trump world was being investigated, as even Comey himself testified, in March of 2017. So Gowdy is a surrogate for Paul Ryan, the Speaker. It is the Speaker who has him and others, and of course Gowdy will deny it. That's too bad. I'm just telling you what I know as a fact. It is the Speaker who has relented because of the pressure from the FBI director, and so now this is how you know where Paul Ryan's coming from and where Gowdy's coming from. Now, I can tell you, because Mr. Gowdy's never worked in Maine Justice, and Mr. Ryan has never worked in any aspects of the Justice Department, that this professor, Stephen Halper, was a spy. You can look it up in the Oxford Dictionary, or you can just understand what spies do. There are all kinds of spies. And he was reporting to the FBI. He was not working on the Trump campaign independently. He was there to try and pick off a few of these people. Paul Ryan has done a grave disservice because we need to get to the bottom of all the Svengalis who've been behind this, all the people in the shadows who are involved in this. I'll be right back.
Cast your vote for Mark today for the National Radio Hall of Fame. You can vote by text